pretty damned well viewed at this point. But congratulations. We've been here before. You probably damaged your credibility. I was planning on recording on something else today when this crossed my Twitter feed, X feed if you prefer, but Twitter feed. And I could not believe it, see it again. I'm going to suspect there'll be another one from Nature magazine, because Nature, of course, endorsed Joe Biden last cycle. And we're going to get to that. So my kind of immediate feeling might be summed up by this. That we're here again with the scientific magazines, prestigious ones, deciding to endorse candidates. And they, as Scientific American says here, for only the second time in our 179-year history, the editors of Scientific American are endorsing a candidate for president. That person is Kamala Harris, editorial. We've been here before. And the reason it says second time with Scientific American is because, well, what do you know? In 2020, they endorsed Joe Biden for president. Now, before I go any further, I want to make one thing abundantly clear. I'm actually not a fan of either candidate. So I kind of have no horse in this race because I don't really like either one all that much. Me being who I am as a scientist, I'm more of a fan of what the truth is with different things, and both of them are politicians, so both of them tend to be, shall we say, a bit of liars, as it were. So I am not a fan of either one. Okay? The other thing is, for me, as a personal belief, I don't particularly care who you vote for, and I don't care to know who you vote for, because I very much go with the notion that who you vote for is a secret between you and the ballot box. I don't care to know. If you want to tell me, great, but I will never be saying my vote out loud, and I will never ask somebody who they voted for. I don't care. On that front, it doesn't matter to me who you vote for. Okay? All that much, it doesn't matter to me all that much at all. It's kind of like speck on the floor. So I just wanted to put that out there before I go any further with this. I really don't care who it is. Where I have a problem with this is because of the fact that this actually does damage credibility. This does damage the credibility of scientific organizations. Now, for the record, I did read through the actual piece itself on the Scientific American website here, and what I can say from reading it is, put it to you this way, it reads a lot like the talking points that everybody has about their candidate and why they endorse them. It reads like a bunch of talking points, and talking points from particularly a left perspective. So that makes it to me very, shall we say, unbecoming of a scientific magazine. Magazine that is supposed to be actually about science itself. And that's where this gets annoying to me. I mean, I can scroll through it and it's like, all this, that, and talking about getting rid of certain things and doing certain things and being this and being that, and like, again, not something I'm really interested in seeing from a science magazine. And we've been here before with this, and that's the reason I unfortunately have to mention this in this video, is that we've been here before, because the reason I dislike that scientific magazines are doing this is because we know at this point, may not have known before, but we know at this point that it doesn't help matters. I have talked frequently on this channel. Go back through the channel history, you will see it many, many times. I have talked frequently on this channel about the drop-off in trust in science and scientists in this country, and why I think it's a bad thing. I do think very much it's a bad thing because, you know, we do place the expertise of scientists on an important mantle in this country to be able to be truth tellers and tell us honestly what's going on. with certain things. And when science gets politicized, left or right, I don't care which one does it, but when it gets politicized by left or right, then you're basically not necessarily going to be trusted as being a truth teller. You're going to be considered a propagandist. Now, of course, this is not to say folks are correct to point out that scientists are human. We do have values. But as Jonathan Rauch notes in The Constitution of Knowledge, one thing we need to keep in mind is science itself is also a reality-based community, and having divergent perspectives in the sciences actually does help us check each other's biases so that ultimately the whole collective enterprise of science moves towards the truth. Or, as we might say from Karl Popper's thing, continually pursues the truth with the knowledge that we may never get the full and whole and complete truth of everything, but goes after it. That's the sort of Popperian rationale, and Gina will fact check me if I'm wrong, I'm sure, with what I just said. But either way, the notion here is that with the science being a reality-based community, having those divergent perspectives in sciences actually helps us get at the truth. So when you start for something that tends to speak for a crap ton of scientists, tends to speak, and I should say does not speak for all, as we'll get to that in a minute, but does not speak for all scientists, but tends to speak for a lot of scientists, starts to endorse candidates, well, what are you doing? You're putting it into public perception that we are something other than perhaps what we should be, and that we've moved toward being supportive of people for particular agendas and what have you. So obviously, go read through this if you like. I did read through it. The reason I'm not talking about it too much here is because it is very little actually about science itself, despite the headline. But it is actually more so seeming to be a collection of talking points related to the candidates' positions or supposed positions, because that's what it seems to be. At least the last time I checked Kamala Harris's website, there was very precious little in terms of specific policies and what she would do. Hence the reason I kind of say supposed policies. I could be wrong by the date of this recording. Please feel free to tell me. I'm happy to take that correction. But we have been here before with this, and I said before, we know now that an entity like this doing said endorsement is actually damaging. How do we know? Well, fascinatingly, it was actually, oh shoot, hold on, let me see if I can't fix that real quick. It was actually published in Nature last year. Political endorsements can affect scientific credibility. In 2020, Nature endorsed Joe Biden in the US presidential election. A survey finds that viewing the endorsement did not change people's views of the candidates, but caused some to lose confidence in Nature and in US scientists generally. Now, if this gives you longtime viewers a feeling of deja vu, that I'm bringing this article back to the fore, there's a reason for that. And that's because I talked about it a year ago. Actually, tell me if this rings a bell. This is a Nature article. Political endorsements can affect scientific credibility. And as they note here at the beginning, in 2020, Nature endorsed then candidate Joe Biden for the presidency in the United States. And Nature was not the only one, and it's not the first time Nature has done this. Nature in 2016, I believe, endorsed Hillary Clinton for president. And in 2020, Nature was joined by Scientific American, also doing the same endorsement. And same endorsement of Joe Biden, that is. And what made that notable in that case was that was the first time in Scientific American's 150-year history, at that point, that they decided to break tradition of theirs and endorse a candidate rather than not, as it were. So this is where it gets interesting. But the article itself is great, but actually that's not what I shouldn't say the article is great. The article makes a point here. But what I suggest reading is actually the study, which is linked here on the page. And of course, the link for all of this is in the description for you as always. So I'm going to stop that right there because I'm obviously not going to rehash the whole video that I did previously last year talking about the paper itself, let alone the actual commentary in the paper here with respect to the findings, which is to say, they basically found that, congratulations, you do a lot of damage to your own credibility and to the credibility of other scientists when a science magazine actually endorses a candidate. Congratulations, because this is the thing that annoys me with it, is, if you can't tell, I'm a bit annoyed today. This is the thing that annoys me with this, in that we know there's a problem with public trust in science and scientists right now. This is not going to help. This endorsement of Kamala Harris is not going to help. And I would say the same thing if it was an endorsement of Trump. I would say exactly the same thing if it was an endorsement of Trump. It's not going to help anything, and it won't make a damned lick of difference in the election, for crying out loud. And that's actually pretty much what this found. So I'm going to go back through this summary of the article real quick. But again, I will link to my old video, which has all the other links, of course, in it, and link to this and to the relevant tweets and articles and things like that. You will always find that in the description. In 2020, we live in an era in which there are many attempts to politicize science. Some scientists are concerned that such attempts will reduce both public confidence in science and people's willingness to rely on scientific information to manage challenges such as a pandemic. Nature was one of several prominent scientific publications to endorse Joe Biden in the 2020 U.S. presidential election, adding a political element to a publication that derives its credibility from science. I wouldn't necessarily, reading this again now, I wouldn't necessarily say derives its credibility from science as much as derives its credibility from what science does and what it's supposed to be, which is a reality-based community that's centered around figuring out what the truth is on various topics. How did Nature's endorsement affect people who viewed it? Writing in Nature Human Behavior, Zhang describes an experiment that asked this question, revealing that some who saw the endorsement lost confidence in the journal as a result. This topic is important because if people believe that political forces might introduce bias or inaccuracy into research claims, they might also think it's riskier for them to trust that research. There have been efforts to understand how public confidence in science is affected by such concerns, and to mitigate any negative effects of this type of politicization. But there have been fewer studies of how political endorsements that specifically come from inside the scientific community affect science's credibility. And this is the point I was trying to make at the beginning, actually, in that you're talking about Nature. You're talking about Scientific American. Science is technically run by a nonprofit, so it won't say anything pretty much on that one. Whereas Scientific American and Nature both get subscription dollars and they're a bit more for profit, just as a kind of note there. But when it comes from from entities that represent sort of professional society of the scientific community or different scientific disciplines, well, yeah, they may represent, it's my kind of immediate thing is just bear in mind that Scientific American, Nature, all the rest do not represent all scientists. That is the opinion of the editors of Scientific American. And I personally will not be endorsing either one, just as much as I would not tell anybody my vote either, because that doesn't matter. But this is the point that I wanted to make, is that, when you're making an endorsement, when you're supposed to be representing the larger body of scientists who are truth seekers, yes, different values, different perspectives, we get that, but collectively together, truth seekers, then it would make sense to me that it would affect credibility, and I did say that at the time, I believe. To my knowledge, the current study is the first to test this experimentally. Zhang's experiment involved a survey that was completed by more than 4,000 U.S. citizens in the summer of 2021, about 6 months after Biden took office as president. Early in the survey, participants were asked about their level of support for Joe Biden and Donald Trump and how likely they thought it was that Nature would have endorsed a candidate in the election. Later, participants were randomly assigned to view either Nature's endorsement of Biden or an announcement of new visual design for its websites and print articles. They were then asked their views of Biden, Trump, nature, and U.S. scientists in general, and whether they would choose to obtain scientific information about COVID-19 from nature or from other sources. Overall, the study provides little evidence, that the endorsement changed participants' views of the candidates. However, showing the endorsement to people who supported Trump did significantly change their opinion of nature. When compared with Trump supporters who viewed nature's formatting announcement, Trump supporters who viewed the endorsement rated nature as significantly less well-informed when it comes to providing advice on science-related issues facing society. Those who viewed the endorsement also rated nature significantly lower as an unbiased source of information on contentious or divisive issues. There was no comparable positive effect for Biden's supporters. All of this here is to say, putting into an endorsement basically does nothing with respect to the candidates, perceptions of the candidates. It does nothing with respect to perceptions of the candidates. But what it does do is the other candidates whom you did not endorse view you less favorably, view you as more biased, trust you less, but the ones of the supporters of the candidate you did endorse basically have no change. They think no less or no worse of you and all this kind of that kind of thing. These effects, moreover, were 2 to 3 times larger for Trump supporters who did not initially expect nature to make this political endorsement than for Trump supporters who fully expected it. This type of finding reflects other research indicating that a person or organization can lose credibility by taking actions that contradict their reputation. Zhang also found that viewing nature's political endorsement reduced Trump supporters' willingness to obtain information about COVID-19 from nature by 38%, when compared with Trump supporters who saw the formatting announcement. This finding echoes other work on how partisanship influences interest in scientific information. Furthermore, Trump supporters who viewed the endorsement also rated U.S. scientists in general, as well as Furthermore, Trump supporters who viewed the endorsement also rated U.S. scientists in general as much less well-informed and unbiased than did Trump supporters who viewed the formatting article. There was no comparable effect for Biden supporters. Like any study of this kind, that's the caveats, and good on them for including the caveats. But as, of course, a question of whether or not it's long-lasting. And from a single endorsement, I would admit it might not be long-lasting. But now we're going to get case example where you can look at it because we have repeated endorsements. But that Scientific American, and I suspect Nature will follow, because what was funny about this is that after this was published, the Nature editorial board sort of doubled down and said, nope, we're still going to do it. Despite the fact that they lost credibility with a significant portion of the public doing that and did some damage to U.S. scientists. It was found in the article, in the research article too, that it did have an effect on perceived credibility and trust in scientists, though it was to a lesser degree. I did note that at the time. It was to a lesser degree than for just the magazine itself, the scientific publication itself. So all of this is to say that it was wildly bad idea for Scientific American to do an endorsement again, regardless of the reasons why, because congratulations, you've shafted your own credibility in the foot, as it were, with a significant portion of the public. And because it is a larger publication dealing with scientists, you do some damage to public trust in scientists at the same time. And we have some data that suggests that, yes, more repeated research, and congratulations, Scientific American, you at least provided another data point for that. But it's remarkably embarrassing to see this because, you're taking away the credibility of scientists. Well, of at least Scientific American being about truth-seeking. And this is the second time you've done it in your 179-year history with a bunch of boilerplate things about how Kamala is great for this and Kamala is great for that. I would be just as annoyed if it was Trump that they endorsed. I don't really care either way. That's not the point. Who they endorsed is not the point in this. What the point is that this is damaging to credibility regardless, and damaging to trust regardless. Congratulations, Scientific American. And that was kind of evident in some of the responses. Like, yep, Colin Wright is no fan of Trump. I know that. I figured that one out. Carl Benjamin, Gad Sad, Clifton Duncan, Dr. Nathan Bork, who actually pointed out the same article that I pointed out. All of this kind of stuff in here. There was a lot of negative comments in response to this, and this tweet has been pretty widely viewed because as of this recording, 1.7 million views as of this recording. So it's pretty damned well viewed at this point. But congratulations. We've been here before. You probably damaged your credibility, even more Scientific American, though you've published some whoppers in the last few years, so I don't know how much more you can sink it. So, congratulations. You really shot your credibility in the foot, Scientific American. We've been here before, and you didn't have to do this. That's my thoughts. Thank y'all. Let me know what you think. Again, I don't really care which candidate. The individual candidates do not matter to me in this. I'd be just as annoyed if it was another candidate that they endorsed. Trump, Harris, Cornel West, you name it. I don't care which one. It's just as bad either way. Because you're going to lose credibility with somebody doing that. Congratulations, Scientific American. Good job. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button on the way at the door. Comment on the video. Share the video. Subscribe to the channel. All that lovely good jazz. Till next time, I'm Adrian. Stay curious.